I'm your host, Sarah Baus, and welcome to Attainable Podcast. Hi, Natalie. Welcome to Attainable Podcast.
Hi, I'm really excited to be here.
I'm super excited for you to be here. Before we jump into the interview, we've got a lot of questions. This is about to be such a great episode. Can you give a brief intro of who you are and what you do for the people who don't know you?
Yeah, so my name's Natalie, and I have been a content creator for 10 years now. So I started back in 2011 on YouTube, actually. I was still in high school. I was 15, and I just started like out of pure boredom, and I had no idea what I was doing, and I didn't know what it would be. Like I thought, okay, maybe I'll do this for a little bit. Like I thought it was going to be like a little hobby that maybe I film like a few videos and that's it. Never imagined like the doors that open up when you put yourself out there on the internet. But I've been doing it for 10 years now, and now I am the founder of Rela, which is an all-in-one management tool for content creators to run their business. So it's specifically for content creators and influencers, and I'm really excited because it's something that I have needed for so long, and there was nothing out there that was like exactly what I was envisioning. And so I decided to go out and make it, and we just launched last week on the App Store and Google Play Store.
This app is so great. And we're going to be talking all about that and the story behind that. But yeah, there's a good little gap of time between, starting your YouTube channel and then founding a company. You've had a lot of evolutions through your YouTube channel, college. I believe that you had a quote, regular job at one point, quitting that, building your business. I think at some point you were renovating a house. There's been a lot going on in between then. Can you give like a little bit of an overview of that journey so that we can see how those evolutions led to where you are?
Yeah, and I think that's so important because everything that I've done, like every decision I've made has really led me to the next one, which has been really cool. Like even though it might seem like I've done like major pivots, I feel like I haven't. Like it's really been just like one thing leading to another. So I started, like I said, when I was 15, did it in high school. And I mean, back then it was not a job. It was not, I don't think anyone was doing it for money back then. Maybe shortly after they were, but it was still the time when like people were just starting and like people still thought it was weird to be on the internet. Like I remember getting made fun of in high school for it, and no one really understanding what I was doing. And I was always so embarrassed about it. And then when I got to college, I was like, okay, I'm going to try to take this more seriously because I started seeing people do it full time. I started seeing these girls that were my age that weren't going to college, that were moving to LA, that were doing it full time. And I was like, okay, there's got to be a lot of money in it if they're, able to do this. So that's when I really started taking it seriously. And I was like, I'm going to start with a posting schedule. I'm going to post once a week. I'm going to post like every Wednesday or whatever day I decided on, and I'm gonna like actually do this seriously. And in college I started growing more and more, and I was actually studying at the time industrial engineering, so that was my major in college and that's what I graduated with. But when I was doing that, I realized like there wasn't any YouTubers out there that were talking about their majors, or if they were just doing like business or marketing, which is totally fine, but like I didn't find anyone that was doing engineering like me. And I was like, there's got to be more like girls and people out there that are doing this, that want to find content for it, that it's just like not out there. So I started actually talking about my major a lot on my YouTube channel, which I thought was going to bring me like, I thought that it wasn't going to be beneficial because I was like, there's not that many girls in engineering. I don't know how many people are interested in learning about this. Like it's not my channel was about like makeup and fashion. Like it was not about like my life. It wasn't really that much about like school or anything like that at the time. And so once I started doing that, I saw a huge wave of people finding me, and I was like, wow, okay, people do want to see this. People do want to hear about my life and like how I'm doing YouTube and engineering. And so I started really showing my life a bit more in college. I started vlogging. I started talking about what it's like to be an engineering student. And then when I graduated, I ended up getting a job at Accenture, which is a consulting firm. And at that point, I was so worried. I was like, oh my God, I'm graduating college. I am a college YouTuber. What am I going to do now that I'm not a college YouTuber anymore? Like, what am I going to film? And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to do the same thing I did back then, just talk about my life. And like, maybe people will resonate with like me working like the 9-to-5 life. And so that also brought in a lot of people to my channel. People really seemed to enjoy that. It was very relatable, and like people, I mean, I guess enjoyed that I was like working a normal job. And I feel like it just like was relatable to a lot of people. And so after 9 months of doing that, I ended up quitting. So I was able to do it full time, like do social media full time. And again, I was worried, like every single time I make like a life change, I'm like, oh my God, everyone's going to hate me because
it
like
never
things
gets
are going to
easier.
change.
You're like, oh, I've done this before. Like we've made giant pivots and used that like pit in your stomach. You're like, nope, that's not going away.
Yeah, no matter what, it doesn't go away, whether you're scared of like taking the leap, you're scared of like what people are going to think. It's like so many fears that you have. And so I ended up quitting and I was so nervous. One, because I was like, people like me because I work this like normal job and now I'm like doing social media full time and like people are not going to like me anymore. Or I would think like, how am I sure I'm going to be able to support myself? Like, what if I like lose a bunch of subscribers and I just quit and then like make no more money, you know? And I was just like worried about that too, but it ended up working out. I mean, people seem to really enjoy my content still. And I started posting a lot about like productivity and, you know, I was dabbling into like entrepreneurship at the time. I really wanted to, you know, not just be a content creator, not just be an influencer. I was like, I am quitting my job so that I can focus on like building an actual business. And so I actually started consulting with influencers about how to make their channel into a business, how to grow their social media platforms, how to really like grow and monetize their personal brand. And so I was doing that for like a year and a half, meeting one-on-one with content creators and influencers. And that's kind of where I was like, okay, I want to get more into like the business side of influencer marketing and influencer industry. So I was helping influencers. I started taking on brands as clients to like help them with like influencer marketing campaigns, just as like freelance work. And that's really when like that period, I was like, why is there no tool out there that helps these influencers manage their business? Why is there nothing out there that is like actually effective in helping like small to medium-sized businesses connect with influencers? Like, are influencers not all on one tool? Like, what's going on? And like, it was something that I desperately needed because I was like, I'm using Excel spreadsheets, I'm using different apps, I'm using project management tools that like aren't optimized for social media to run this thing. Like, what the heck? Like, there needs to be something simpler out there. And so that's when I came up with the idea of Rella and got that ball moving. So that's been my like career evolution. I did renovate a house in the middle of it,
Yeah.
but I did make content on that. But as for like career stuff, I would say that that was like my evolution.
Yeah. Did you ever have like an identity issue or kind of insecurities with an identity, especially coming out of like a college and schooling environment? There's a very like, hey, here's paths, here's the job you can take. In each job, you can look on a thing called Glassdoor and see how to get that job versus your path. You were kind of making it up as you go. You're like, okay, what's the next step? Here's what I want to do, completely trudging your own way. And I'm sure like, I know I've been in a place where I'm looking at around me wanting, hey, does somebody have an example of what this looks like? Nope. Great. Okay. I don't know what I'm doing. And here I go. Have you ever felt that way?
Oh, totally. All the time. I feel like, especially, I mean, every single time I've made any decision, I felt that way. Even like, for example, with engineering, like deciding on a major back when I was like 18, 17 years old, that even I was like, well, what am I going to do with that? Like, I don't want a traditional engineering job, but I'm going to major in this because it's like a good major and it can like open up doors. But, you know, I always knew I would have to kind of like forge my own path because I always wanted to be a business owner and like start my own thing. So I was just trying to like figure out best steps to get there. And so I never really like fully knew what I was doing. Like when I was in consulting, I was like, okay, I'm going to stay here for 2 years because that's like the right thing to do. And then I'm going to quit after 2 years. And then I'm going to like figure out what I do then. But like I have 2 years time. And then when things started like picking up quicker than I had thought, I was like, all right, I'm just going to go for it and figure it out along the way. And I think I will say one like quality that I admire about myself is that I am very just like go and like I will do something and jump head first and like not really plan it out that much, which can be definitely bad at times. But overall, I feel like I don't really like focus on the worrying of like, oh my God, what if this doesn't work out? What if this doesn't work out? I'll worry a little bit, but I'll still do it anyways. And so I'm very grateful that I have that mentality. I don't know why I have that mentality, but I just am like, whatever, I'm just going to do it and I'll see where it goes from there. Um, so it's it's been very nerve wracking making these big decisions. And like, I feel like my identity has been wrapped in what I do always. Like, it's always my, you know, oh, like when I was in school, it was my major. When I was in, like consulting, it was like a good job that I got. When I graduated or after that, it was like, okay, I'm a YouTuber that's trying to be an entrepreneur. When I, you know, it's like my identity has always been in kind of like my career, which
Mhm.
is not the best thing, I will say. And it's like something I'm working on, but I still feel that way even today. Like my identity now is like, oh, the founder of this company, where it's like, that's scary because like, what if it doesn't work out? Then what's my identity? So I've definitely had like those crises in my head.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I resonate with that so much. There was a point, like in kind of transition between when I was quit my job. I love hearing when people are like from a STEM background going into like any kind of creator job. I was a chemist. I was chemistry out of college, and then I did same thing. I graduated. I was like, okay, I'm going to do chemistry to figure my life out, and then I lasted 6 months. So you did better than me, and I was like, okay, gotta go. This is terrible. But in those transition points, I remember I was like, I just want a title. Like, can somebody just tell me, like, when somebody says, hey, what do you do? I want to be able to answer them properly. And for whatever reason, I fixated on that. And I agree, it's something that I've also like struggled with. And you kind of have to grapple with it being okay with that changing and evolving with you as a person.
Totally. Well, even like when people ask me, what do I do? I never know what to say still, because I'm like, okay, do I go, I'm a YouTuber slash like influencer route because that's like where I make my money? Or do I go like, oh, I'm the founder of this company? And then they're like, what? Like, you're 25. Like, what are you talking about? You know, it's like that imposter syndrome hits because I'm both. But like, what do I say? Like, I don't, when people ask that question, it's like a one word answer. It's not like, well, I do this and then I'm also doing this. Like, no one wants to hear
Exactly.
you for 10 minutes. So I never know what to say whenever people ask me that.
Yeah, I don't know if we ever will. So before we get into the Rella app, what was the hardest part of building your influencing business?
Yeah, I would say the like how long it takes. I don't think people realize that. I think nowadays it's easier and it's quicker, and you can literally be full-time influencer within a year. Like, I think that's totally possible for a lot of people, especially with like TikTok and like new social media platforms and people taking it more seriously in general. Like, just the opportunity, there's way more opportunities to make money even when you're have a lot smaller of an audience. But for me, I mean, I started in 2011. I didn't do it full time until 2019. Like, literally 8 years. And there were so many moments when people that started way after me, people that started in 2015, 2016, were like millions of followers, millions of subscribers, like doing it full time. And I was like, what the heck am I doing wrong? Like, why am I growing so slowly? Why am I not growing? Why? Like, I feel like I'm doing the right thing, but like, they're growing so much quicker. And so that was the hardest part, is like that mental patience. I don't know if that's the right word, mental patience. I don't know if I just made that up, but that the like patience in it, of like being okay with not growing as quickly as other people and like still sticking with it.
Yeah, that seems to be a theme of the several interviews that I've done. Reminds me of, I saw TikTok where you learn everything. And this girl said, I finally became okay with realizing like I can build this slowly. Like anything that I want to build, I can build slowly. And I'm sure that you've had to kind of take that lesson into Rella as well.
Oh my God, yeah. And I'm so thankful I learned that with YouTube and with social media, because like the social media today makes everyone seem like if you are not successful the first time you try something, the first time you do something, the first time you launch something in 3 months, you're a failure. Like, it doesn't even make it seem like, oh, if you fail, you're a failure. No, if you're not successful in a second, you suck. And what are you doing? And I hate that, because that's just not true. And it's, people only show you when they get to the top, or people only show you when they're succeeding, or you only pay attention to them when they're successful. So to me, that's just is like, I hate that about social media. And I hate that younger people today feel that way, because let's say if like I was 15 now in 2022 and I decided to start a YouTube channel and I wasn't growing quickly, I would be so discouraged. I'd be like, what in the world? Like, everyone else is saying that this is so easy and everyone's doing it, and like I can't do it. Like, I must not be good enough. And that's just not true. But I feel like today it's like more prevalent than ever that people think that.
Yeah, it's insane. Like the amount of talks that I've had to have, or that I've had, yeah, had to have.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I'm saying about like failure and defining failure. And I love the lessons that are like try and fail. Like if you fail, that's how you succeed. Just keep trying. Sarah Blakely's one of her interviews, she who is, for those listening, the founder and CEO of Spanx, super great female entrepreneur to follow. But her dad used to ask her and her brother, like, so what did you fail at today? And if they did not have an answer for like where they failed, like he'd be disappointed, be like, if that means you didn't try hard enough, like you need to put yourself out there. And I was like, what a great lesson to learn,
Mm-hmm.
especially at so young. And I'm sure that's propelled her to where she is. And I'm sure that you learning that lesson propelled you here and will propel you farther.
Yeah, no, that's so true. That I love that. I'm gonna start asking. When I have kids, I'm gonna ask them that question.
I'll send you the video interview because it's even better when she tells a story. But okay, so yes, let's talk about Rella. This is such a cool app, and I love that you're addressing a need that like nobody's really talking about, for how much social media talks about creators and influencers and like being, influencer, how cool it is. I feel like industry wide, it's still something that people don't pay attention to. And so I love that you are cornering that space. What is Rella? Let's talk about what the app is and who it's for.
Yeah, so it is a management tool for social media content creators, influencers, and we want to make it the only tool an influencer needs to run their business. So we just released last week, but it's version 1. We're constantly going to be adding new features. We want this to be the only tool you need to run your business. And because it is a business, being an influencer, being a content creator is a business. Even if you're not making money right now, you know that you have the potential to in the future. And you need to treat it like a business now. Like, for example, Rella, it's a business, but we're not making money right now, so you have to start thinking of yourself that way. Like, it's just before you get there. We're for all content creators, influencers, we're mainly targeting micro influencers because I feel like micro influencers are the ones that, don't have a manager. They don't have a team around them. They don't have like agents and all of that. So we want to make sure that we're a tool that kind of prepares them and helps them manage and run their business. And micro influencers are working with so many brands. They're making money. So we really want to make sure that we target that like specific demographic.
I love it. And you guys are so like grounded in service to that community. It totally shows with how you've built the app. And, I've been in the test group and been able to get the message from your team, and you're so open to feedback and you want to hear like, how can we make this better? And I love that you're focusing on that community of micro influencers. And I've listened to other podcasts of yours, and you've been very encouraging to micro influencers to go after what they want. And I agree, even if you're not making money yet, so many like large businesses that, the Steve Jobs, all of them did not pay themselves for however many years. So just think of it that way, like completely building your own thing from the ground up. So what's your encouragement for micro influencers? You say that they can make money at like a small following.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is don't measure your following as much. Like, of course, you're going to pay attention to that. I'm not going to say like ignore it completely, but that is not the main thing. I say start fostering your community, even when you have 2 people in it, 3 people in it, 1,000 people, 500 people. You have to foster that community. And if you don't, they're not going to stick around, and then you're never going to grow. Or if you do grow, you're going to grow with an audience that isn't engaged, and that's not going to help you in the end, because businesses and brands care about working with influencers that have an engaged audience. And it's not even just about, oh, brands want to work with people with an engaged audience. If you ever want to go out and sell merch, create your own product, host events, you want your followers to be able to support you and be there for you so that you can also like make your own business and, make sure that your audience resonates with it. So I would say start fostering your community even when it's small. That's honestly the best time to do it. So one thing that I have learned a lot with Rella is that one thing that we're like really happy about that might be counterintuitive is how small we are right now, because we can talk to our customers one-on-one. We can message you guys on Slack. We can, go on a Zoom call. We can, actually like hear exactly what your feedback is and be like, oh, we're on it. When you're a huge company, you can't really do that as well. Like, yeah, you can try, but you have a million people that work under you. You have a million customers. And so we're really, really like making sure that we're taking advantage of how small we are. And I think that same logic goes for creators. Take advantage of how small you are and get to know everyone that follows you and supports you, because those people are going to grow with you. Those people are going to recommend you to their friends, and you're going to have so much more of a loyal community. And if you start those practices now, it's going to be so much easier to keep when you do grow.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I love that mindset. And it's true. You guys are really taking advantage of that kind of stage you are now and talking to your audience. And I think that's great. When you first thought about Rella, like ideas in your head, what was your first steps? Because you've pitched influencers, investors, you built a team, the whole 9 yards. What was that first thing that you did? Bring out a piece of paper? Were you writing things down? What did that look like?
Yeah. So the very first thing I did was I pulled up a Google Doc and I wrote down, like, I just did a brain dump. I was like, okay, what do I want this to be? Like, I was like, I have this idea. I actually think this is a business, or it could be a business. What do I want it to look like? And so I started out with like just overview, high level overview. What is this going to be? Then who is this going to be for? Then like how am I going to monetize this in the future? Like even if it's not monetizable right away, what is my monetization plan for the future? And then I did a brain dump of the features, what I wanted it to look like, how I wanted it to, how I wanted like customers or users to interact with it, like just a brain dump of things, like whatever I wanted, like specific features, like broad things, like whatever it was, so that I could just like get it out of my head. And then the next thing I did was realize, okay, I don't know how to build an app, so I need to find someone who does, because I knew that I wanted this to be an app and like a tech product. And so I started asking around, and I started like booking meetings with developers from like random websites, like freelance websites. I started asking friends if they knew anyone who like knew how to code and knew how to develop apps. And I just started talking to people. And I think that's the best thing that you can do when you have an idea. Even if you don't know if it's going to go anywhere, it doesn't matter. Talk to people, because you are going to either validate or really quickly prove that this isn't a good idea, and you're not going to waste your time anymore. So I started talking to developers. Then I started talking to some influencers, and I was like, what do you think of this? You know, kind of sharing my ideas. And I started telling everyone my idea. And I know sometimes people are like, oh, I don't want to tell my idea because someone might take it. No one's going to like, you are the most passionate about it. People are not really going to take it. Like if I heard someone's business idea, I'm not going to be like, oh my God, I'm going to drop everything I'm doing and start that, because I don't have that same like conviction for it. So I would say talk to people, tell them your idea, get feedback, talk to people that can help you grow it. So if you're looking to build an app or product or whatever, like talk to manufacturers, talk to developers, whoever you need. Don't like sign contracts right away and like jump into business with someone, but like just start getting quotes, start seeing what the process is like, so you can actually have an idea of what you need to do next. And so that's what I did. And it definitely was a long process of talking to people, but I think it was really helpful.
Yeah, I love that advice to talk to people. I think that I've always said, you know, people are willing to help if you just ask for it. Like the amount of times when I've just expressed, oh, like I'm struggling with this, or oh, I'm trying to do this. And to, you know, to somebody in my community, they're like, oh, like I know somebody who can help, like, let me bring them over. And that has been those connections have been the most valuable to propel me in anything that I'm doing. So I agree. Like, I mean, it's quote networking, but it's really just like people like to help people. So don't, you know, discount asking for help.
Right. And I was always surprised at how much people want to help. Like you can ask anyone, like, hey, do you want to jump on a call? Or, hey, do you mind sending me an intro to this person? And people like without hesitation do it and are willing, and like very valuable feedback and insight and advice, and people are so helpful and kind is what I've realized like throughout this entire process. Like I know we were talking before we started recording, but we have a mutual friend that we didn't even know we both knew this person, and I got connected with him because I asked someone that I knew. I was like, can you please send me an intro, because I want to talk to him. And he was willing to jump on a call, willing to talk. Like we don't know each other, you know, but I think that type of stuff, it's like shocks me so much that so many people are willing.
Yeah, you'll be surprised who comes out the woodwork and who that you're connected to by a mutual friend or any of that stuff. But so earlier, I mean, we talked a little bit about, you know, the culture of like getting things fast and quick fix and getting results like now. And with the journey with Rella, I'm sure that like that's been a slow one, and like something that you're passionate enough that you want to build it slowly. You want it to be something that's long term, meaning that you want to lay that groundwork. Did you ever have like points of doubt or like fatigue during that whole process, especially in a place where you're not seeing results right away?
Yeah, I mean, I started this idea, or I had this idea end of September of 2020. So not 2021, 2020, and then launched January 2022. So it took about a year and a half to a little less than a year and a half to really get this out there to users. And so there were a lot of times when it was like, okay, we're either not growing fast enough, or like we're not raising money, or we're not that we're receiving so many rejections of like accelerators, fundraising, whatever, like so many times that I was just discouraged about that. But then also it's like, oh my God, we keep pushing back the live date, like because like things aren't ready in time. So like there's so many things that go wrong, and so many things that, or not necessarily go wrong, but like get pushed back and get discouraging. And I mean, none of the founders are getting paid for this either. So it's one of those things where it's like, okay, we're not getting paid. We're doing this because we really, really believe in it, which is great. But sometimes I'm like, I'm spending so much time. I'm spending like literally 100% of my day on this. And I'm like neglecting, social media and content creation. And I'm like, wouldn't life have been easier if I just like did that? And like, I was like, what would I do all day? Like, no shade to like people that just do full-time content creation, because I do know it's a lot of work. But I was like, literally, what would I do all day? I would be so bored. Like I would have nothing to do, but that might be nice because like then I'm like still making the money that I'm making, but like I'm able to relax and I'm not able to do the stress. Like, why did I do this again? And so there's moments like that when it's like, oh my God, like we're not seeing the results as quickly as we want. And then we're still spending 100% of our time on it. But I mean, I know it's so rewarding in the end. I always say, like, you know how people say like, oh, your emotions are like a roller coaster with entrepreneurship. My emotions are a roller coaster on a 24-hour cycle. Like, it's not like, oh, one day is bad, one day is good.
Yes.
No, it's like the morning is good, the afternoon sucks, the evening is fine, and then when I'm going to bed, I'm happy. Like, it's like every day is like
truth
this.
of that is unreal. I have a and if you don't have this, I highly suggest it. We've got a Voxer, which is like a walkie-talkie app. If you've never used it, it's so fun. But we have a little group chat called Business Besties, and on a daily basis, it's 3 of us. And we'll go in there, and in the morning we'll be like, this is so great, I got this email from this person, it's amazing, and blah 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 blah. And at 2:00 we're like, you know what if I just went out and got a job, because my life means nothing and all of this is going to crash and burn tomorrow. And then give it till 9 p.m. You're like, you know what, I'm energized, ready for a new day.
It's literally like that every single day. I'm like, this is not a weekly thing, this is a daily roller coaster. And I'm like, oh, like it's it's bad.
It's bad. No, 100%. I'm like, there was you get cynical sometimes because you have those ups and downs. And I was talking to the girls, the business besties, and I was like, if somebody were to come to me right now and say, should you start your own business? I would probably tell them no, because I'm like, this is way too much. If I had anxiety and stress under somebody, having it where it all relies on you is 10 times worse.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like, it's so much harder. And especially like if you have a team, or if you've been like doing it for a while and like still not at the place you want to be, or it's just like so much, or like certain seasons, like tax season, or I don't know, like if you need to hire someone, or if you're getting overwhelmed, or if you lose a client, or if, it's like, there's so many things that can go wrong. And then it's like one little tiny good thing, and you're like, oh, okay, this is worth it.
Yes, it's all worth it. This is great.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I made a post about on TikTok that was just like, hey, like if you want to comment on somebody's stuff, or you feel like you think that what they're doing is cool, please go do it. Like, you don't understand how much it means for you to say, like, if they're showing you their outfit, say it's cute. If like they're telling their story, say thank you for sharing. Like, you don't know what it means. As just like as you're passing somebody on the street, I have a rule. Like, if I have a compliment, I don't care how weird it may be, how weird they might find it, or if I'm embarrassing the people around me, like, I have to tell them, because you never know what that means to somebody.
I love that. Yeah, I need to adopt that rule, because I think like even like the smallest compliments or the smallest little comments means so much. Because I mean, some people might be scared, be like, oh, that doesn't matter if I like say it or not, but like it really does. Like the day that we launched, I responded to every single person saying thank you, like, because it means so much to me. And like, I don't want anyone to think, oh, I'm just one in 100 people that reshared or reposted. Like, no. You are like so special. Thank you. And like, I really wanted people to know that. Yeah.
I like the rule is, if I feel like I'm in need of something, then go give it. And like, that'll come back to you, and it just makes you feel better. But switching gears a little bit, I want to go back to like influencing, and with, Rella and what you're seeing in the industry. The creator space has changed a lot in the last 2 years. The pandemic raised a lot of new creators, which is awesome. And then the rise of TikTok, and they seem to push the other social channels to support creators a little bit more with their creator fund. And so we're seeing all these initiatives that seem to be fueling this new age of creators. But are you seeing it as like, are we in the cusp of like a new era of influencing, or are we kind of nearing the end of a very oversaturated market?
I think that we're in the cusp of a new era, and I think that there's always going to be new eras. I never think, well, I don't want to say never, but in the next 10 years, it's not going to be oversaturated. And because one, we always need something to entertain us, and we're always going to be like looking for, people that we relate to, looking for entertainment, looking for advice, looking for like whether it's in books, movies, TV, like that's just never going to go away. And so social media is now one of those categories, just as like books are, TV shows, movies, and now social media. It's not going to be going away anytime soon or ever, I honestly think. And so the accessibility is what's really cool about it, how anyone can become an influencer, anyone can post on social media, and like people will find value and you will find an audience. But I think it's just a new era, because I remember before TikTok, before the pandemic, everyone was saying it's oversaturated. Is this oversaturated? No, if you start a YouTube channel, if you start on Instagram, you're not going to be able to make it. Like, don't even start. Like, sorry, too bad, you missed the train. And I was always like, what? No, like, what the heck? Absolutely not. Like, there's still so much room to grow. And this was even before like TikTok was popular. And now with TikTok, the influencer industry, like the top paying influencers weren't even around 2 years ago, you know, like, or weren't big 2 years ago. So it's not oversaturated. It's not going to be oversaturated. It's just, there's new platforms, there's new opportunities. You just have to find your audience. The algorithms change and you have to keep up with it. And like, but I don't think it's ever going to be a point where it's like, all right, we have enough. You guys can stop now. Like, no one else, it's the cutoff. Like, that's just never going to happen.
Yeah. Nobody ever says like, oh, you know what? We've way too many lawyers. Like, you know what? We've got way too many, or doctors. I'm like, everyone around me wants to be a doctor, yet nobody is discouraging them. But as soon as you say, I want to go into influencing or any kind of creative role, they're like, you know what? There's a lot of people in there. Like, maybe you should do something else.
Literally, that's such a good example. And it's like, yeah. And guess what? There's also a lot of people that are on social media that look for content creators and that watch content creators. There's even more than before. Every year where there's new users added to every platform. So like, I don't understand, you know, like,
I don't understand. I can't compute.
It's just one of those things where it's like, I don't know. It's such a passionate topic for me, because especially with creating an app in the influencer space, people are always like, isn't that oversaturated? And I'm like,
oh my God, I didn't even think about that.
Then why isn't there a product like this? Like, I get so passionate about it. I'm like, oh, calm down. No, I don't think it's oversaturated.
No, she's like, okay, I have my answer prepared for the people who have the ignorance to ask that question. So here I go.
Yeah. And like, I get it. There are tools and there are things out there that like are obviously similar to what we're doing right now, but our path that we are going on, like the things that we're adding, is where we get set apart and where
completely uncharted.
Yeah. And there's a white space in the market. That's why so many of us have had the same exact problem. Like, even if there are other companies out there, they're not solving the problem. So like, there's a space for it.
Yeah.
So I get very passionate about that topic.
Yeah, I can tell, as you should. They need that encouragement. So if somebody's listening and they are thinking about starting their business, thinking about starting influencing, what advice do you have for those people at the very beginning stages?
Number one, just start, dive head first. This is not something that you're going to be investing a ton of money in, that you need to think about and do research and like make sure that you need to take the leap. If you have an iPhone, you have an Android, whatever you have, like, you can do it. So first thing is just start putting out content. Your first piece of content, first 10, 20 pieces of content are going to be bad, most likely, and that's fine. But you need to figure out what works and what doesn't and what you like, and find your style and find your niche. And you're not going to do that by just thinking about it. You actually have to push the button that says publish and put it out in the world for you to realize what works and what doesn't. It's like kind of, I mean, going back to like starting products, like if you start a physical product that you're selling, you are never going to know if it's good or not until you release it to the market and have them tell you if it's good. And then you can pivot from there of what works and what doesn't work. So same thing with like content creation. You have to post your content and the world will tell you what works, what doesn't, and you'll find your style, you'll find your niche, you'll find your audience, but just start posting.
Yeah. And I like that you said pivot. But when people start stuff like this, they forget. They're like, oh, if I choose this path, like I have to ram into it and like there's nothing else. It's like, actually, it's so funny. You're going to do about like 3 180s and then turn right, and then you're going to hit something and have to go backwards and then twist around upside down and tap your head before you figure out like where you might end up in 5 years. Like, you will have to pivot. And as long as you can like be okay with having change and pivoting, then you'll be all right.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, you're not stuck with your first video, oh my God, you have to stick with that niche. Or even like people get scared, like, oh, if they blow up with one certain niche, they feel like they have to stay with that niche. I don't think so. I think you can always pivot, because social media is cool where your audience likes you for you, like they get to know you as a person. So you can pivot always.
Yeah. Can you talk before we rein it in? Can you talk a little bit about your time when I was listening to another interview of yours, and I love that you shared this story, that you got discouraged. I believe it was in high school or college, where for a brief time, like, you let people get to you for a minute, because at that point people were not understanding, and probably, I mean, it's high school, so they're even meaner. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because it was very inspiring for me to hear your story and how you kind of came back around from it.
Yeah. So when I was in high school, I started my YouTube channel sophomore year, and by junior year, people started kind of figuring out about it. And so it wasn't like the whole school knew or anything like that, but people in my friend group, or not even my friend group, like, the distant friend group that you hang out with sometimes, started finding out and like telling people, and they started playing my videos in front of me and making fun of them, or like hanging out like a group of guys, and they would like play my videos and like make fun of me and like send me Snapchats of them like making fun of me watching it. And it was just like really, really hard for me because I was so insecure at the time. And I feel like everyone is in high school, but I was just like, oh my God, these people think I'm weird. They're making fun of me. They're like, I don't want to deal with this. And so I kind of took a break. Like I didn't take a actual official break, but I posted maybe like 5 videos in a year or something like that. So it wasn't like I wasn't very consistent. I took like months hiatus and stuff like that. And so with that, I was just like letting those people tell me that it's weird and tell me that I shouldn't be doing it. Or no one said like you shouldn't be doing it, but making fun of me and feeling like I was an outcast for it. And so I was like, I don't want to deal with that. And so I'm going to stop this thing that I actually really, really love, because I'm just scared of what people think about me. And I don't want to deal with them making fun of me. And so I did that. And it was like such a regret of mine, because I missed out on probably a lot of opportunities to grow that year. I let other people dictate what I wanted to do with my life. And that's something that just should never happen. And that's why when I went to college, I remember going to college and literally having this exact mentality. I was like, we're 18 years old now, like so old. I was like, we're 18.
So old.
I was like, we're adults. If you care about what I am doing with my life, about me posting videos on the internet, and you're taking the time to actually make fun of me for it, that shows so much more about you than it does about me. I'm going to do this. I'm going to make money. I'm going to be like successful at this, even if it takes a long time, but I'm just going to like put my head down and do it and not care what other people think. And it was just like a mentality shift. It was like, I started looking at my life in years from now, being like, what could happen if this becomes successful? Am I really going to let these like people from my high school that I don't even speak to anymore, like tell me what to do with my life? Like, no. So it was really a mentality shift. And it was kind of one of those like fake it till you make it. Like I had to, even if I didn't fully believe that mentality, I had to just like act like I did. And then of course, like I ended up believing it, but like, I was just like, I'm going to start doing this because I am not missing out on more opportunities.
Yeah. Oh, I love your story. I love everything that you're doing. I think that everything that you've built, and hearing how it all stacked together to what you're doing now and what you're going to do in the future is insane. Where can people find you? I love that you have a pretty large platform. You've got a bbig community, but you still make it feel like a small group of friends. So where can they follow you? Where can they find Rella? And then how can they help to push your mission forward?
Thank you so much. I want it to feel like a small group of friends. So that makes me really happy. You can find me on social media anywhere, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, at Natalie Barbu. And then I have a podcast called The Real Podcast. And Rella is at Rella Social. You can look up Rella on the App Store or the Google Play Store and download it. And if you do enjoy the app, you can give it 5 stars. That definitely helps a ton. And if you have any feedback for us, like I said, we're a small team. We're just released, so there might be some like bugs or some feedback that you have. You can actually join the Slack group and let us know, or you can email us and let us know. So we're really excited to just like make this app the perfect app for you.
Awesome. I love it. I know that they're going to love it. Thank you so much for coming on. This was so great.
Thank you for having me. This was great.
All right, guys, if you enjoyed this podcast, which I know you did, go follow Natalie and all her things. Go check out Rella because you're going to love it as much as I do. Please go rate the app with 5 stars. Go give us 5-star rating on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Because we're friends, you should write something really nice because that's what friends do. And as always, have a fabulous week, and I'll see you guys next time.